Hi, my name is Sofie Græsholt Sjødal and I'm a Norwegian bridge player and teacher, and today I'm going to talk about why we need the under 26 women category. First, I'll give you some background information about the junior teams, and then I'll talk about some statistics, and then my own experiences from championships, then why we need to include girls, and also the downside of girls' teams, and then eventually a summary of my presentation. So at the moment we have 4 junior teams. We have the under 16 category, which is the newest category, and then we have under 21 and under 26, and also the under 26 women team, which is also often referred to as the girls' team. So the first year of the under 26 women's team was in the European Championship in 2004, and when it was 11 teams who participated. And there's been between 6 and 14 teams in the European Championships. 6 was in 2015 in Tromsø, when it was really expensive. So usually there's been between 9 and 11 teams. And the best year was in 2009, when it was 14 teams. So I hope that we at some point can get as much as 14 teams again, and hopefully even more. So there's been 21 different nations who's participated in the girls category. But there's been no new nations since 2011. So now if some of the regular teams decide to not participate, we're just going to get fewer teams. We need to inspire first those teams who's already participated but don't do it anymore, but also new teams. Because it's a really fun tournament to play, so I hope more federations want to send a team. The only 2 countries who send teams every single time is Poland and Netherlands. So I have a few experiences from championships, and my first international championship was the European Championship in Poland in 2013. At the time I was 11 and my partner was 22. I think it might be the only time in a junior championship where the age difference has been, or the one player is twice as old as the other player. And of all the players from the Norwegian delegations, we were 14, and the second youngest were 5 years older than me. So it was quite a lot of difference, and I was clearly the youngest one, but I still had a really good time. We were staying at a place that didn't really have a good place to meet up, but every single night we decided to meet and play cards. We didn't play bridge because we'd already played 60 boards every day, but we played different card games and had a really good time. But since we didn't have any place to meet, we ended up playing in a laundry room. And it wasn't the biggest room, and we had quite a small table, and I think usually you could fit about 6 to 8 players around that table, but somehow we managed to fit every single one of the players around that table and in that room, and we just had a really good time. So I've played several championships with much better results, but this is probably going to be one of the championships I remember the most, because I had such a good experience and people didn't really mind the fact that I was so much younger, and it was just amazing, and I think it's going to take a really long time for me to forget that. And the Norwegian delegation is on the top picture. And then in 2019 I played my first championship for the Open under 26 team. That was in Norway, so it was really fun. And I was one of the first 2 girls to ever play on the Norwegian national teams for the Open under 26. And I was 17 years old at the time. And as far as I know, I'm the youngest player to ever have played on that team, so I think that's really fun. but I know that I wouldn't have been able to get that spot on the team if it hadn't been for the girls team. Because I've had an amazing captain who's helped me so much, and also the international experience I've already gotten from Championship has helped me evolve as a player. So the girls team is a really nice beginning to a bridge career. And at the bottom picture we can see the Norwegian delegation in 2019. So as I said, the girls team is a really nice beginning, because usually at a young age, girls are both shyer and quieter than the boys, so it can actually be difficult for girls to show how good they are, and which will make it more difficult to get a spot in an open team. Because when I started playing, we didn't have a kids team, so I probably could have gotten a spot on that team, and now we do have that one. But it's still a lot of young players who start to play, which is really great. We can see here a picture from a Norwegian junior camp, and since we have so many players, it's nice to also have a girls team for some of those players. And the girls team can inspire girls to keep playing, both if you're in a team, because I know a friend of mine who said that if it hadn't been for the girls team, she probably would have stopped playing. But when she got a spot on the teams, she continued, and now she's a really great player. And also, if you're not in a team, it can be really inspiring to see other people doing really good and think that, wow, that can actually be me at some point, and then you work really hard to try and get a spot on that team. And in the European Championship in 2019 in Norway, 8 of the 9 teams who participated in the girls category also had a team in the under 26 and under 21 category. So that means if we shut down the girls category, we're gonna lose 8 teams, because they don't really have anywhere else to play. So we're just gonna lose a lot of players. And the last team, so the exception, was Hungary, who decided to play in the girls category. I talked to them and they said that the reason they wanted to play in the girls category instead of the open was because they thought it would be easier to get a good result, and they figured they much rather wanted a medal in the girls category than getting a okay or maybe not that good result in the open category. So it probably was a good decision because they got a silver medal. And if they want to make that choice, I think it's really sad that someone else should just tell them that no, it's not prestigious enough to get a medal in the girls category, so we're just cutting it. Because if it's their choice, they should be able to get the choice. And also, when there are more players in a national team, you can more easily get media attention, because as a player in a national team, you can often get a local paper to write about you. So cutting out the girls category might actually make promoting bridge harder, and that's not something we want, because we need to work really hard to promote bridge, because we want much more young players to play. And also, there hasn't really been that much talk about cutting out the women's category, and I think the girls category is a really nice start on the journey to a women's team. So we need to make it easier for the younger players to also be able to play in an open, more kind of an adult team, because some of the young players are good enough to play in that team, and if we then have a girls team, that could make it easier for them later. But there are some downsides of having a girls team. And I think the biggest downside is actually something that's quite easy to do something about. And it's the fact that federations often don't pick girls for the open teams. They kind of have the thought that, okay, they already have a team, so they don't really need to get on a higher team. But if girls want to play on an open team, it's really important that they get the chance. So it's really important that federations start picking for the best teams first, And then if the girls don't want to play in an open team, that's fine, they are allowed to play in the girls' team. But that should be their choice. And then another problem is the attitude toward girls. There are some people who give comments of the fact that they're not good enough to play in an open team or something else. But we can't just cut out the girls category. I don't think that's going to be a solution to those problems. We need to find solutions to the problems because it's a huge problem. But just cutting out the girls category is not going to help it. At least I don't think so. And then to the comments of people just saying that there are less people in the open teams because of the girls team. That's actually not true. To look at this, I checked all the teams in 2002, the last year before we had a girls category in the European Championship, and 12.5% of the players were girls. However, in 2019, as much as, or not as much as because it's really, really low, but 14% of the players were girls. So there were more girl players in 2019 when there was a girls category than there was before. And I think that's because several players have had the same journey as me, and they started on the girls team and then eventually got picked for an open team. Obviously there could be coincidence since it's just 2 years, but I think it's an argument to look at that the girls team is a great start. And then the Open Championships is a nice thing to look at because in the Open Championships you can choose where you want to participate. You don't have to be picked for a team. And in 2018, in the European Championship, 2 girls pairs decided to participate in the Open category, so in the under 26, whilst over 20 pairs decided to participate in the women's category for juniors. And then in 2019, in the World Championship, which was also open, every single pair that was fully girls, and also teams, because it was a teams competition as well, decided to participate in the girls category. We can see a picture here from the semi-finals in the teams competition. So to summarize, we can see that demolishing the under 26 women category would exclude a lot of players. So that means fewer people at championships, which I personally think is really sad because the social thing around the championship is some of the best things. And I have a lot of friends playing in different girls teams, not just in the Norwegian one. And I think it would be sad to not see those again. And also we're going to get less media attention, and media attention is something we need badly. And the problem with federations who doesn't pick the best players for the open teams is something that we can fix. We just need to make sure that the federations think about it and do something about it. But in an ideal world, I think that we don't need a girls team, because I agree with the opinions that having a girls team when we don't have a boys team is really weird. But we need to find other solutions to fix the differences between boys and girls, because having 14% of the girls in open teams is not enough. So when we're closer to having a 50-50 between boys and girls, I think we should demolish the girls category. But we need to get there first. Just cutting it now is not going to be the solutions. But in a few years, or maybe a bit longer, I do really hope that we don't need this anymore and that we can cut it. Thank you for listening.